Awesome. I'm not starting over. All right.
No.
Got a motion by Tom and a second by Dan. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We're going to move on to the director's report. Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Transportation and Policy Body. We have a few items to report to you, starting with innovation presentations. There is a, YouTube links that were placed in the packets of the past presentations on innovations. Those can be seen. As part of Metropolitan Transportation Plan development, we try to understand as much accurately as possible our region. What is our region in terms of economy, in terms of innovations, in terms of transportation system, in terms of demand and infrastructure, and so on. So we'll be reporting on various of those items, all part of long-range transportation plan development. So second item in this report to you is a quarterly task chart that is in the packets as well, on pages 12 to 13, that has how staff, WAMPO staff is progressing on various tasks by quarter. So that's available. Happy to elaborate at any point on any of the status or tasks that are ongoing. The third item is safe routes to school planning. Ashley, Nick, and Dora had been leading that effort, coordinating with various jurisdictions, how best we can serve safety around our communities and schools as well. Because schools have a separate funding category in Federal Highway Administration. To be eligible for that funding category, we need to develop a safe routes to school plan, and that's how staff is developing that. And let me request Nick to provide an update on safe routes to school planning. Nick, thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chad. So just a quick reminder, Safe Routes to School is a federal initiative to make it safer and easier for children to walk or bicycle to school, built around these so-called 6 E's of engineering, education, encouragement, engagement, equity, and evaluation. And getting down to brass tacks, if a jurisdiction, a city, a school district has a safe routes to school plan in place, then activities called for in that plan become eligible uses of transportation alternatives funds that are suballocated to WAMPO for distribution. So there are uses of TA funds that are eligible already, but then additional uses of those funds would become eligible if you had a plan that called for them. And to help with this and to help our jurisdictions get money for as many different activities as they want, and then also for the general purposes of safe routes to school planning, because who could possibly be against safe routes to school in principle? WAMPO is providing member jurisdictions and school districts, or as the case may be, individual schools with planning assistance to develop safe routes to school plans. This is programmed in our TIP already for $200,000 of transportation alternatives funds in federal fiscal year 2024, i.e. the current federal fiscal year that just started. The primary focus is on elementary and middle schools, but high schools are not excluded. They are still eligible. And WAMPO's plan, or at least WAMPO staff's plan, is to hire a single consulting firm that will help all of the jurisdictions that will be selected ultimately for this planning assistance. Because $200,000 would not be enough to do proper safe routes to school planning for every school across the WAMPO region. And so it has to be some and not others at some point. But going forward, there will be opportunities for WAMPO to provide planning assistance to additional jurisdictions and additional schools. But then it won't, rather than it being a consultant, it will be WAMPO staff providing it based off of the expertise we will have gained from the consultant in this initial round. And then it will still be limited by how many we can help in any given year. And jurisdictions that receive money out of that $200,000 in this initial round will have to pay the 20% local match on that. So the overall project cost would be $250,000. Plus, if any of the jurisdictions want to pay more than that to get more included in their plan, say more schools or have more bells and whistles on the plan, then they could pay for that extra cost out of their own pocket. And or if they are more strapped for cash and the funding isn't quite enough, then they would have the option of applying it to a subset of their schools. Because, for example, if you have a school district with dozens of schools, they may choose to focus on a handful of high priority schools that are especially dangerous for walking and biking. And we had an application period that was open for this from the 8th to the 22nd of September, during which we accepted applications from our various jurisdictions and school districts. We got 6 applications during that time. And they were the city of Derby and corresponding USD 260, the city of Hayesville in cooperation with Sedgwick County, and then also USD 261, looking at some particular schools in that area. The city of Mays and USD 266, the city of Rose Hill and USD 394, Valley Center and corresponding USD 262, and the city of Wichita, USD 259. Next steps. Later this month at TAC, WAMPO staff will present a proposed split of that $200,000 of federal fiscal year 2024 TA funds between specific jurisdictions that applied for the funding, for how much money would be available for their particular planning efforts. And then once the TAC has provided a recommendation on that, it will be brought to this body for the TPP to vote on exactly how much of that $200,000 will go where for this initial round. And again, not making it into this initial round does not mean that you will not ever get planning assistance. Meanwhile, WAMPO staff are already working with KDOT staff to get the project programmed in KDOT's system. It's a lengthy process, but we will handle all of that nasty paperwork aspect so that the jurisdictions will not have to. They will be invoiced for the local match, but the more complicated KDOT paperwork, WAMPO will deal with, and WAMPO will also be the one making the payments to the consulting firm and the one issuing the RFP for the consulting firm. Let's see. Yes. Now, one thing that the school districts involved in this will be tasked with is performing a survey of the parents of students. They'll be provided with the forms for it and then have to distribute it to get more information about travel choices for their children to their schools. And then also on certain specified days, conduct tallies of how students got to and from school on that day to also use for data purposes for this. So there will be that to consider. And as I said, after the TA funds are all used up, we will have more opportunities for planning assistance depending on the availability of WAMPO staff. And then also, while keeping all that in mind for WAMPOs, planning for assistance for safe routes to school. Also keep in mind that there is still going on right now the application period for KDOT pilot planning and programming grants. More information on that is available at www.kansassrts.org, and that is with 2 S's in the middle. And this is their first round of this. They're going to use the firms of Tool Design and Burns McDonnell to provide planning assistance to up to 5 school districts and up to 8 schools per district, but with no local match. This is a statewide program, so the odds of any given city or district receiving this funding are pretty low, but it is definitely something to still consider applying for, especially if you're not going to get the WAMPO funding this time around. And that KDOT application period is open from the 22nd of September through the 17th of November this year. And they will have a webinar about it with the exact same information on both the scratch that. Sorry, I should have removed this last bullet because it describes something that's already passed. But yes, they already have information from that same URL up at the top about it. So sorry, I left on the webinars that are already passed. Any questions on this before the next item? Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. The planning is great, but really the big portion of the cost is going to be implementation of whatever that plan is. So is there an idea of where the funding is going to come from once these plans are built, or are these plans just going to go on the shelf someplace?
The idea is that once these plans are in place, that anything that is called for in them becomes an eligible use of TA funds that are distributed in the future. And so that is the benefit there. It is not, there's no funding automatically associated with having this plan, but it does create greater eligibility for funding.
Just to clarify, Commissioner, TA funds or transportation alternative funds, it can be used both on sidewalks and trails as well as to safe routes to school program. So those funds become eligible, and other types of grants that are related to transportation alternatives, whenever they become available, they become the plan with its identified improvements become eligible in the future. So that's why we're keeping something ready. So when the funds become available, this plan would be helpful to identify projects.
Okay, well, again, I go back to some of the things that we've been working pretty diligently on, and that's the pathway going down Maple Street from 135th all the way over to 199th, I think it is, and then down 167th, because kids are walking down 167th with no sidewalks whatsoever. So does that move that up in priority then, since we've already got it pretty well planned?
It will be included in the priority, yes. All these projects by the project selection committee, this will be high priority, Commissioner. That is always stands as priority. And there are many funding opportunities as well. So it is still a priority, Commissioner.
Okay, well, we've been working on this plan for some time, trying to make it safe to get over to those schools along 167th Street. And I don't want that bumped down because we come up with a bunch of other plans that might become higher priority. So I'm going to keep pressing for that one for sure. But anything that we do for the schools, I definitely support. I just don't quite understand how that this is all going to turn into something that's going to develop into pathways to get kids to school safely.
Are the TA funds something that WAMPO controls, or is it something that the state or federal government controls?
TA funds are both on suballocated WAMPO as well as state. Our project selection committee, when they convene, they make decisions on surface transportation planning grant funds, STBG, and CMAC funds, congestion management, air quality, and then TA funds. So it's both, Troy, it's both.
Okay, so, and I'm gonna offer up some, if no one else has something right now, just if we're gonna take on a role perhaps at WAMPO of now training or helping entities set up or cities set up the plan, I mean, that's extra time we're taking. So I guess I might recommend thinking about a way to make it an online resource first, where it's got most of the information there so that a city doesn't have to necessarily start by coming to us and getting on one of these and taking the time of WAMPO staff, at least up front, because there's a lot of preparation work that could be done. And we could provide that digitally for them to follow a path to create before they ever get to us in the training of that. So I guess I would recommend maybe we do that. An online resource that allows the cities or whomever's needs it to prepare themselves before they get to us. So it's a lot faster process if we're gonna take it on. Yeah, so I guess the other thing is since, yeah, no, I'm good. Does anybody else have any thoughts or questions about these? Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Allison Smith has her hand raised online.
Allison,
Yeah.
go ahead.
All right, thanks, Nick. And this is also directed at Commissioner. Just so you know, when there are projects that come through with these safe routes to school plans, you're not limited to applying for just future TA funds. Many of those projects, like building a pathway, sidewalks, that sort of thing, are eligible under STP. They would also be eligible for CMAC and potentially future carbon reduction funds, because more kids walking to school reduces the number of cars on the road. So that's also a possibility. So keep in mind that there are multiple sources that we could fund those projects with. So in the future.
Yeah, I agree with Allison, Commissioner. That's one of the examples of Goddard project, school project can be funded through various other funding categories as well. And this sort of Safe Routes to School program, this particular plan it's only eligible for certain part of funds only, like TA funds only. And then, like Allison said, there are many more funding categories available.
Go ahead, Chad. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And moving along, the more safety topics, thanks, Nick. The more safety topics, couple more. This board and WAMPO is very committed to safety on our transportation system. And all year long, we had been working on Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, CSAP. It's coming to a conclusion with a 30-day public comment period until October 19th. After that plan will, staff will come to you seeking your approval and adoption of that plan. What happens once that CSAP is adopted, again, identified improvements in that will be eligible for future safety grant funding. And safety grant funding with new legislation is significant amount distributed to various MPOs. So our MPO is also taking advantage of getting our safety plan ready so that the grant application, that would be sometime in 2024. We'll wait for the notice of funding opportunity called NOFO, notice of funding opportunity. That may be around June 2024 till September sometime during that time frame. So with that, there's one other item called ICT Safe. After talking and having several conversations with KDOT staff on safety, WAMPO staff, and also working on the safety plan, and then KDOT also conducting various safety corridor throughout the state. We got together and developed a grassroots level transportation coalition on safety that included like sports commission, advocacy groups like Mothers Against Driving, and then, DUI Victims Coalition. There were several that grassroots level community organizations that got together and then formed this coalition. KDOT staff were excited to have WAMPO staff lead this effort because of, the CSAP plan development addressed many causes of the crashes in the region, and some progress was made by staff. So that's just a status update on this, that we'll be having a quarterly meetings involving communities as well, because not always jurisdictions are adequate to make a difference in making it safer, reducing fatalities, reducing crashes. This needs a lot of public engagement as well. So it's just an update for you that there is an ICT Safe Coalition. And then staff worked on finding, how do we name this? How do we come up with a name for this coalition? And they came up with this ICT Safe. Interestingly, ICT stands for our Jesse Ramo is here today. He's presenting on airport as well. ICT is Wichita, but the staff also noticed that ICT also stands for I Can Travel Safe as well. That's all the update on this, and we will keep you in the loop on how those meetings are progressing, how the engagement of one and all to improve safety is happening. We'll continue to update you on that. Next item we have is Kansas Mobility Week. I think, I don't know if Jessica is around. Jessica Warren is probably.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Jessica.
Hi, Jessica Warren, Mobility Manager for South Central Kansas. Today I'm here to talk to you about Kansas Mobility Week, and I had a few slides. I'm not sure if they're next. Yes, thank you. So the third annual Kansas Mobility Week is happening from November 5th to 11th. And Kansas Mobility Week is a celebration of the ways that Kansans interact with each other and their communities. So that is a celebration of biking, walking, using scooters, public transportation, things like that. Next slide, please. So Kansas Mobility Week, what we do is we have events across the state. On your screen, you'll see in all of the yellow and orange, those are all the counties that participated in our second annual week last year. So we had 55 events across 37 counties, and then we had one statewide event. Next slide, please. And what those events look like, we intentionally put it over Election Day and Veterans Day whenever they fall in the same week. So some transportation providers provide free rides for the week, for Election Day, for Veterans Day. Last year we had at least one city council gave recognition to all of their drivers and operators for their city system. We've had transportation awareness displays at gathering places like senior centers. Some areas that have the bikes that you can rent have given free bike rides, and other areas have had passenger appreciation day with prizes, or some of the smaller rural areas have been able to give little gifts to each of their riders. And our statewide event is a selfie challenge, where we encourage anyone who's participating in the events to take a picture of themselves participating and tag us in social media at #KansasRides2023, and they'll enter in for the opportunity to win a gift card. Next slide. So this is just a little more information about how to get involved. More information can be found at our website, ksrides.org. And there's a little section at the top that says Kansas Mobility Week, or you can contact myself. It's on the slide. So thank you. If there's any questions, I'll be here.
Thank you, Jessica. Few more items. Sorry to taking long in this director's report. I'll wrap up as quickly as possible on the next few items. The next item is the MTP and TIP call for projects. This occurs once in every 5 years because our long-range transportation plan is adopted every 5 years. This call for projects started in September 15th, 2023, and goes until January 5, 2024. This is an opportunity for jurisdictions to submit their priorities of transportation projects, and then project selection committee would evaluate and then prioritize, among all the projects submitted, what were the ones that are included in the MTP based on the revenue projections, because the revenue projections sometimes are not adequate to include all the projects that are submitted because of the fiscal constraint. Projects needs to be selected that meets the revenue projections. Those analyses are conducted by staff, and this staff is working with all jurisdictions to to understand individual priorities, and in summary, our regional transportation system, what are the priorities of our region and what are the priorities of our transportation projects in our region. So that's what is happening right now. Just want to provide you an update on that. Any questions on this item? Happy to clarify. Otherwise, I'll go to next. It's in your packets on the dates and call for projects. So the next items are UPWP is Unified Planning Work Program. There's a public comment period that is concluding today, October 10th. And then, the 2024 UPWP document, staff will come to you next November meeting to seek your approval on this administrative and projects listed in this document for staff. The next item is KDOT local consults. That is October 18th. It's probably on your calendar. So staff is all WAMPO staff is attending, and then you all know this from KDOT as well. So the final item is staff updates. On the staff updates, I think I already reported to our executive committee a month ago that it's a bit sad that Ashley is going to Federal Highway Administration. Ashley Bryars, our transportation planning manager, is going to move on to the career. It's a great loss to WAMPO. Ashley did a great job, remarkable contributions, made a difference, a positive difference in our processes, leadership, worked very well with all of us. So Ashley, any comments you have for?
Just thank you. Thank you very much for all of you. I've enjoyed working with all of you, and I hope everything continues going great. So thank you.
So thank you so much, Ashley. We wish you the very best, and we're always here to support you wherever you are.
Yeah, Ashley has been vital to the team for a while now, especially with her experience and what she's brought. A lot of professionalism for sure to the role, and it's just been exceptional for her to be here. Very sad to see her go, but understand people moving on with life and doing great things. So it's good to see a excellent progression plan into the new person that'll be taking up that role. I realize that item 11 was kind of nixed, but I'll just say I've also had a pleasure serving with you all for the city of Andover as well. I am stepping down from city council at the end of this year, and I'm going to go ahead and retire my role here at WAMPO probably next week. So you guys all get to figure out how to elect a new vice chair. It's been pretty amazing to be a part of this because it's so much history and understanding and engineering and how everything functions. And it's something I didn't expect when I first took on the role at WAMPO about 4 years ago. And I just feel that with everyone in here, 100% of you, it's been just a blessing in my life to be a part of this, especially with the people that are here today. So appreciate the time that I've been here, and I hope that you guys elect a great vice chair after me. We'll move on to public comments. I'm going to open the forum for the public to provide comments about specific items on this month's agenda, as well as any other issues directly pertaining to WAMPO's policies, programs, or documents. Matters related to personnel and litigation are not appropriate for public comment. Rules of decorum will be observed. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Comments are requested to be emailed to WAMPO prior, but if you didn't do that, that's fine. We'll let you talk anyway. So does anybody have any public comments today? Okay, we'll move on. I appreciate that. We'll close the public comments period and move on to the action items. Number one, it's going to be Peter and Nick as well to talk about the Transformation Improvement Program amendment number 5.
Good afternoon, everybody. Peter here. So going to introduce this amendment. So we had our public comment period from September 1st to September 15th, during which we didn't receive any public comments. We brought the amendment number 5 to TAC on the 25th, which they recommended it be brought to TPP. And so the TIP amendment is online on our website. It's also available at the attachment in the pack or on the link in the packet. And we'll go ahead and look at the map here. And so we get them all on the record. There is 14 projects total that require TPP approval. And 10 of those are new projects. 4 of them are modified projects. And yeah, we'll go through here. We have the Oliver to Woodlawn multi-use path sponsored by Bel Air. The Seneca Street multi-use path sponsored by Valley Center. Amendments made to the Redbud Path from Woodlawn to K96. West Street, Harry to Pawnee, City of Wichita. The Multimodal Facility, City of Wichita. Amended the Maple Street Pathway, sponsored by Sedgwick County. I-135 Bridge number 48, located about 5.5 miles north of I-235 in Park City, sponsored by KDOT. K96 Bridge number 271 and 272, located about 15.5 miles east of the Reno-Sedgwick County line, sponsored by KDOT. I-135 Bridge number 299, located at junction I-135 and US 54, sponsored by KDOT. The K96 Bridge at number 279 on 45th Street over K96 westbound and eastbound lanes, located at the K96 45th Street junction, sponsored by KDOT. I-135 Bridge number 11 on the northbound K15 to I-135 ramp over Gypsum Creek, located about 1.2 miles north of I-135, sponsored by KDOT. Sedgwick County, or the new Sedgwick County, half-mile west of K254. It's an exploratory project looking at the intersections on K254 and that stretch of road from about a half-mile west of K254 and Rock, east to on K254 to about the Greenridge Road intersection. And then I'll go ahead and move over here. We have our tables here, which kind of go into the different reasons why different projects were changed. Again, all of this is available on the website to go take a look at. And then any questions for me? Okay, Nick, go ahead.
Thank you, Peter. This slide just summarizes the changes in funding levels at the local, state, and federal source levels for each of the projects in this amendment. This same table also appears in the agenda packet that you all should have received. And you can see down here that there is one project not in the list that Peter went through because it is an administrative adjustment, a project that had funding changes that added up to less than both a 25% increase and an increase of $5 million, and therefore qualified as an administrative adjustment. K42 in Sedgwick County, a KDOT project down there on the end. Overall change in local funding for all of these project additions and amendments and adjustments, $1,655,001. Change in state funding, $4,761,620. Change in federal, $21,902,317. Overall change in funding of $28,318,938 overall, and we do maintain fiscal constraint with that increase. Out of that federal chunk of this table, there is, as a subset of that, WAMPO suballocated funds, i.e. the funds that this body is actually responsible for directly awarding to projects, as opposed to incorporating them in the TIP at the request of KDOT. And you'll see here the first 5 projects on this list enact the carbon reduction program funding levels that were approved at the TPB in July of this year. So these are the amounts that were approved for that, to get those suballocated funds into the TIP finally. And then once they get into the Kansas STIP next month, assuming this body approves the amendment, then they will be able to start obligating funds. And then also there are 4 other projects shown on this list that you will notice do not have any change in their overall amount of WAMPO suballocated funding, but do have changes in the mixture of individual suballocated funding programs. This is because we had to make sure that federal fiscal years 2024 and 2025 were both projected to end with positive, as close to zero as possible balances for STBG, CMAQ, and TA and CRP funds. And so this was just changing the mixture between those. And then also there was one project, Douglas, Seneca to Meridian, that the city of Wichita asked through an administrative adjustment to be moved back 1 year. And so to accommodate that, some more swapping around of funding had to be performed, primarily on the other Wichita project on here of West Street I-235 to MacArthur. Now these latter 4 projects on this table were all done through administrative adjustments, so no official action is required on them. But the top 5, because they increased WAMPO suballocated funding through the carbon reduction program, do require approval from this body. But again, this is funding that you already voted on back in July. And now there were caveats attached to that, of course, on a couple of those projects when you approved it, but in the event of those caveats being triggered, we will have further TIP amendments to take care of those. As Peter explained, we did have our public comment period already and did not receive any public comments. We are still consistent with the current Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and we are still fiscally constrained, adding $28.3 million to the TIP. And so your options now are to either approve Amendment 5 as presented, not approve it, or approve it with specific changes. The TAC recommended that you approve it as presented. Any questions before turning it over to the vote?
Anyone online? Okay, I just want to point out that that is an incredible amount of work that was just presented to us, like 5 minutes, eloquently presented, very understandable. I feel like that's special to have people like that, like we have at WAMPO, to do that. Obviously today I'm gonna praise everything I see since this is my last go at this, but seriously, that was very exceptional to both you and Peter. Thank you. So do I have a motion in some direction for this? I'll second it. Ooh, I get a second one. All right. We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will move on to the second item, which is the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. Ashley?
Thank you. I am Ashley Briers, Transportation Planning Manager at WAMPO for a couple more days. I will be presenting this for Marcela Quintanilla because she's in class. And so just wanted to let you all know that this is her work. So the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan, actually I left out a few words. Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan is all about providing transit and transportation to people who need it. And so the process we went through to develop this was meeting with the United Community Transit Coalition a couple of times to review the community profile and then the survey results. We had a survey from June 16th to July 31st. And then we had a public comment period from August 24th to September 23rd. We did present those results to you all last month, and then we're here today for plan approval. Again, here's the timeline. There were 4 phases, and we went through the process like I just mentioned a second ago. So this plan has 3 sections. There's the first section that talks about the background information about why this plan is important to have. Section 2 is all about the assessment of local needs, and it includes a community profile and then a needs assessment. And then section 3 has all of the ways to try to approach the needs and issues that were found. It includes an implementation plan that identifies strategies and activities, and then also specific steps. The goals in this plan are to enhance accessibility and inclusivity. These strategies include providing training for drivers for accommodating passengers that require accommodations, creating and promoting transportation programs to benefit low-income individuals, and increasing availability of multilingual information. Goals 2 is to remove transportation barriers by assessing the demand for extended hours, allocating late night service and weekend service, and then collaborating with businesses. And then the third goal is to increase collaboration between transit providers. And we are doing that through the UCTC, or United Community Transit Coalition, and also through our other projects, such as the Regional Transit Implementation Study that we're doing right now. So we did receive a couple of public comments during the 30-day public comment period. Most of them were like just updating some of the mobility management goals that we received the comment from KDOT and then Jessica Warren. And then there were some typos that we needed to fix. So we just wanted to make sure you knew we fixed those. So the action options are to approve as presented, or not approve it, or approve it with specific changes, and TAC recommended approving it as presented at their meeting. Any questions for me about this?
Any online? No hands are up. Again, excellent, Ashley. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have 3 possible motions in front of us. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move to approve the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan as presented.
Thank you, Russ. Can I have a second? From Dan, Russ and Dan. So all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to move on to the Intelligent Transportation Systems Steering Committee. Peter?
Good afternoon again. So we have been putting together a steering committee to start our Intelligent Transportation System Plan and put that together for everybody. So the plan will document intelligent transportation systems all across the WAMPO region. It really involves just getting a giant inventory of every kind of intelligent transportation system you can think of, from the which way signs going down K2 or going down K or 54 to stuff on like fire trucks that tells the traffic light to change colors if they're coming down the street. They're extensive inventories. I was looking at Mark's. It's about 1,000 pages long. So we've been working on this project. We put together a timeline. We're hoping to get it put together and get that first draft off to TAC in April of next year. We're working on just getting the steering committee member. We presented it to TAC, who recommended that we bring it to you. So I have that list here. And that is also in your packet here. So with this list, you have your options here in front of you. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Commissioner Dennis, did you have a question?
Well, right now we've listed Mark Force replacement. We do have a replacement. Lynn, can you give us the name of our new traffic engineer that serve on this? Okay. So can we change this to show the actual appointee?
I certainly can. I had it on there, but I hadn't spoken directly with Lynn yet to make sure I could put that name on this list. But thank you.
With that, I move to approve as presented.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second by Tom. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Very good. So just to clarify, this steering committee's first goal is looking at inventory.
That's a way to put it. These documents, you just go through every intelligent transportation system between all departments across the MPO region. So again, by the end of it, you're going to have a document that describes who's in charge of each system, how it connects to the other systems, and what kind of category this information system is in per a federal database.
I guess I might offer another thought on that, is that since it's so big and it's really hard to be an expert at all of that, if there might be some place where it has advice on best practices, or maybe a federal authority that has the ability to provide based on the layout and usage of all traffic and such in a region, what the appropriate systems would actually be, not just the kind of hodgepodge that we've done so far, which has been excellent, I'm sure. But when you try to look at a holistic view, if we're really trying to work together, considering the future of what all this is going to look like, it's probably better to spend money wisely now instead of have to redo everything later. So is there a federal transportation group that is focused on stuff like that we can work with from the beginning?
I have looked online and there are quite a few resources from the US DOT. They're a little bit spread out, but there's a lot of guidelines on how to create these documents and kind of put this together, because you are correct. There's a lot of just disparate elements to this kind of project. But yeah, I think it would be a wonderful goal to come out with, to put in all this work and then perhaps come out with some strategy and plans to implement things better in the future.
Yeah, Chad, go ahead.
Just to add, to Peter, Mr. Chair, that our staff had been working with our KDOT's Tom Hain on this intelligent transportation systems. You have seen the cameras that has recording of incidents and crashes and response. Those are all, and then also fiber optics that is across all the transportation system. So Peter is going to report to the steering committee members on how City of Wichita's fiber optic system is evolving, how the communications and variable messages on Kellogg and other places in the future can be enhanced. All those, Peter, with the help of steering committee, is going to put together the smart messaging and making the public aware of incidents and rerouting and all that is involved in this development of this intelligent transportation systems, just to update.
Tom, did you want to add? Yeah.
And there is a national clearinghouse for that information. It's called the National Operations Center of Excellence. And they take information from AASHTO, which is a group of all 50 states, state DOTs, and ITS America. which is chapters all over the country, plus a national chapter of ITS experts. So yes, there is a clearinghouse, and we will be looking at that and hoping that there's a form.
I hope so. I would just hate to spend $1 billion over maybe 10 to 15 years and then everything be scrapped because we didn't plan it right, just like anything else we work on. Also, I'll point out, this is probably the most interesting thing that I've seen us work on WAMPO, and now I'm stepping away. So I'm very sad about that aspect of it. Okay. So did we vote on this? We did. Okay, so we're good. Let's move on to Regional Transit Implementation Plan Steering Committee. Dora?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm Dora Gallo, Transportation Planner here at WAMPO. I apologize for my voice. So earlier in this summer, in July, TPP signed a contract with SRF Consulting Group with sub consultant Nelson Nygaard Consulting and Shockey Consulting to develop the Regional Transit Implementation Plan. This plan will build on the Connecting Communities Wichita Area Transit Feasibility Study that was done back in 2018, and will be a companion plan to the Wichita Transit Network System Redesign Study and the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. The UCTC, which is the United Community Transit Coalition, has been proposed to serve as the basis for the steering committee. And we have also asked additional entities, therefore transit is also incorporated with workforce. So we have also added some additional members to that committee. And here's a list, sorry, Nick. Here's a list of the proposed Regional Transit Implementation Plan Steering Committee. And the action options are to approve as presented, not approve, or approve with specific changes. TAC recommended to approve as presented.
Did anyone have any questions? Anybody online? Okay, then we have a motion in front of, or we have, can I have a motion for this? Thank you, Brian. All right, Terry, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dora.
Thank you.
Yep, so that concludes the action items, and then I feel like one of our representatives is going to leave shortly. We do have the discussion updates, and then to close it out, a motion then. So I guess an odd question would be, if we don't have enough for a quorum and we vote to close this out, is that okay? Who can answer that for me?
You don't need to vote to close the injury.
Oh, I can just end it. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, we're going to move on to discussion updates. Electric vehicle survey results and existing conditions from Dora again.
Thank you. And I'll try to go through this a little quicker. I know there's a lot still left on the agenda. So the survey was open from June 25th through August 31st. There's 12 question survey, technically only 11 because the last one was out of your email if you want extra information. There's a total of 577 completed surveys. 574 were in English, 2 in Spanish, and 1 in Vietnamese. There was 141.5 hours of total staff tabling events hours that were spent in tabling events, and then 15.5 is doing social medias and posts, and then sending emails, reminding people to take the survey to share it. So I know staff worked really hard on pushing this survey out. So we'll get going with some of the results. So this was the first question. The plan basically saying if people agree with the mission statement that the WAMPO region will become an EV destination corridor and hub. And we had 364 of the respondents said yes. And then there was an option of saying yes, but add an additional comment, or no and add an additional comment. And we had 58 that said yes and added an additional comment, or no and added 132 said no and added additional comments, as well as the other. And all those are in the report that can be found online. There's a lot of them. Another question that was asked, if you drive to work, to the grocery store, recreational activities, or medical appointments, how far is your longest trip? And we have that 58% of the respondents said they drive less than 10 miles. For medical, to work, I should say. For medical, it was 78% said they drive less than 10 miles. For school, I added school in case people don't go to work, just in case we have some students. So 78% said they drive less than 10 miles. And then for grocery stores, we have a little closer between 40 and then 34% that drive either less or between 10 and 25 miles. And then the other was that a lot of them put church, stuff like that. And 38% said they drive less than 10 miles. Question 3 was, throughout the workday, school day, what is your usual travel pattern? And for the most part, we had 34% said that they stay at their work site or school and don't move their vehicle. Other than work and school, when going to the grocery store, recreational activities, how long do you stay at the location facility? 53% said 30 to 60 minutes at a grocery store. 35% says 60 to 90 minutes at a recreational center. 54% said that they stay at doctors or medical appointments 30 to 60 minutes. And then 53% said 30 to 60 minutes doing other activities. Question 5 was, we wanted to know if people already own or lease or considering purchasing an electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. And the majority said, 273 people said no. 101 respondents said they already own one. And then we had 148 saying that they are considering but don't know when. And then about 60 said that yes, between 6 to 24 months. Then we wanted to know what factors are important to them when considering purchasing or leasing an electric vehicle. A lot of people said that the cost, the mileage range per full charge, and then the charging infrastructure. We wanted to know if people are able to charge at home. 44% said no, while 34% said yes, and 22% said they don't know. And then we asked if their employer either has installed or will install electric vehicle charging stations at their workplace, will they use them? We had 41% not applicable and 39% said yes. Then we also wanted to know, where do people want to see these EV charging stations? For the most part, we've seen grocery stores, downtown, restaurants, parks, a lot of places where a lot of people are spending most of their time. And then here's a map that shows where the surveys were taken in our region. And then we wanted to know some household income information. We had 117 said their income is $150,000 or more. So in conclusion, the majority of the region would like to see the WAMPO region become an EV destination corridor and hub. The people would like to see EV infrastructure at grocery stores, downtown, gas stations, entertainment, recreational areas, libraries, and transit centers. 67% of people are not buying electric vehicles because there are not enough supporting infrastructure. And 44% of the people are not able to charge at home, therefore having to rely on charging elsewhere. Some of the existing conditions. Any questions before I move on? This information is also available online on our website. There's no questions, I'll go on. So currently our EV ownership in the WAMPO region, I divided it by county. So in the Butler County, we have 117 registered electric vehicles, 17 are electric hybrid vehicles, 499 are hybrid vehicles, 11 are electric plug-in hybrid vehicles. In Sedgwick County, there's 952 electric vehicles, 714 electric hybrid vehicles, 2,942 hybrid vehicles, 147 electric plug-in hybrid vehicles. And then Sumner County, we have 10 electric vehicles, 5 electric hybrid vehicles, 75 hybrid vehicles, and 3 electric plug-in hybrid vehicles. This was all taken by the Kansas Department of Revenue. Don't exactly know how they distinguish those vehicles though.
Dora, this is Allison. It's by registration.
By registration? Okay.
You're
Thank you.
registered. Welcome.
A quick follow-up question. How does that rate in terms of penetration compared to regular non-electric vehicles? What is that percentage in total related to?
I haven't calculated it, but I'll add it to the plan.
Yeah, I just would like to know, how are we trending
Yeah.
compared to other regions our size? Are we ahead of the curve, behind the curve, on par with what's happening? I just don't see it adopting as fast as maybe other markets. So I'd like to know where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely get those numbers.
Dora, I can just speak a little bit to that.
Okay.
Because I'm on the NEVI team here at KDOT. Wichita is one of the, including the Johnson County, Northeast Kansas area, one of the largest.
I think you cut off, Allison.
Kansas City and you all. Sorry.
Cut off a little.
Wichita and then Northeast Kansas. Can you hear me, Dora?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are the largest adopters of EVs in the state. So there is a map that I could provide staff. We have it color coded by thresholds so that you could see. That might be helpful for you just to get a bigger picture of the statewide adoption rates. But as far as just in general, Wichita region and the Mark region are.
Yeah, I would expect Sedgwick County to have the highest number because of the size of the county, same with Johnson, but that's just short of 5,000 vehicles out of what is the total universe of vehicles in Sedgwick County. What is that percentage? And then how do we compare to similar sized regions? Are we trending ahead of it, behind it, on par? I just would like to know.
Okay, yeah, KDOT doesn't have like the regional comparison, but maybe that's something that WAMPO could add or look up in there. But definitely, I think showing you guys the map that we have of the state might be interesting to see. But
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, I'll definitely look into that and get those numbers, and I can present it next meeting.
Thank you, Dora.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave.
Quick question. It says 14 free chargers, a total of 27 charging stations. Who pays for that? Because nothing's free.
I don't exactly know. Some of it just, I know sometimes is if you stay like at a hotel, the hotel will pay for it as long as you stay there. That's just an example, but the free charging stations, I know the one in Goddard is free at the park. You just go in there and plug it. I don't know who pays for it though.
Well, that'd be the city.
Might be the city.
Dora.
Yes, Allison.
Okay. A lot of places are beginning to charge and rate structures are being put in place. Some local jurisdictions are paying for the service. Evergy, who has put in quite a few level 2 chargers, right now they're not charging. So it really is kind of all over the place. But as more and more infrastructure is put in place, you will see charging. Like we're putting in chargers with different partners at Casey's, at 24/7 travel shops, and those are they're charged for charging. So it is becoming more and more common that the user will pay for the charging, just as for regular fuel, gasoline. You pay, you obviously pay for all of that. So that is the model that the industry is turning towards, more so than it being free.
Thank you both. Anything else to add, Dora?
I guess just I'll end it with some policies. So based on currently available guidance and regulations related to the NEVI program, Kansas state agencies do not plan to purchase, install, maintain, or operate or own EV charging infrastructure. Infrastructure development and operation will be by a private entity or local tribal government, which supports and enhances the state's overall transportation network. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the urban area boundary discussion. Peter?
Good afternoon again. So this is our update on the urban area boundary. So every MPO has their metropolitan planning area, the MPA, and it must contain another acronym, our urban area boundary. The idea is pretty simple. It's a boundary kind of around the urbanized core. So in our case, Wichita, that separates the urban areas from the rural areas. It is important because it can change things for how different suballocated funds can be assigned. So our STBG funds, our surface transportation block grant funds, can be used on urban minor collectors within the urban area boundary, but not on rural minor collectors outside the urban area boundary. In addition, non-suballocated transportation alternative funds from KDOT can be used outside the UAB, but not inside, whereas our suballocated TA funds can be used in any part of the MPA or the Metropolitan Planning Area. Little stickers on there. The UAB must fully contain the census urban area. So I'm adding yet another acronym here. So the census urban area is determined after the decennial census, and it's based on what census blocks are considered urbanized, but it's kind of a starting place for a lot of times developing these urban area boundaries that eventually we all agree upon. After the census urban area boundary is established, MPOs and their state DOTs must agree on a urban area boundary and submit that to the Federal Highway Administration. If no UAB is submitted, no new boundary that we've agreed upon, the FHWA will default to the urban or the census urban area as being our urban area boundary for WAMPO. Our current UAB was adopted following the 2010 census, last updated in 2015. The 2020 Wichita census urban area that was created after the decennial census, it is entirely within the WAMPO planning area, the MPA, meaning the MPA doesn't need to be changed. That can be a concern on different MPOs. But there's a few parts where the current UAB in a few locations extends beyond the current UAB, meaning that keeping the current UAB without alteration isn't quite an option. So WAMPO staff, we have drafted a proposed new urban area boundary with feedback from KDOT staff. And the TPD, we're now asked to discuss and potentially request changes to the proposed UAB. So our steps from here, once we get any feedback from the different municipalities and different stakeholders within WAMPO, we will create a new urban area boundary, give that to TAC on the 23rd to make a recommendation to TPP, final vote on November 14th. And then on December 1st, that is the deadline for MPOs to submit UABs to KDOT for review. And then our final deadline will be December 29th, which will be the deadline for KDOT to submit our final UABs to the Federal Highway Administration. And I'll let Nick talk about how he came up with the UABs.
Thank you, Peter. Now, you should all have in your packets a map of the proposed new urban area boundary, as well as a link to a website where you can view an interactive version of it and zoom in on particular parts of it and see what streets it's near and not. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, an explanation of how we came to this urban area boundary that we are proposing. and which you are asked to provide comments on before it is brought back for formal action. The first thing we did was overlay the current UAB from 2015 with the new census urban area, to create a shape that causes the minimum amount of change from the status quo in order to meet that requirement that include the entire census urban area. Then we observed the federal guidance that UABs should, and they did use the word should, contain entire municipalities. And so we overlaid with that shape the city limits of the 12 municipalities that were either fully or partially contained within the UAB or the census urban area, with two exceptions of two remote enclaves. A piece of the city of Wichita that is in the far southwestern corner of Sedgwick County, not even remotely urban, and an enclave of the city of Mulvane around the Kansas Star Casino. Then we filled in any holes in the resulting shape, i.e. reverse enclaves. And then any remaining regular enclaves that were nearby to the main shape we connected, because UABs are required to be one contiguous shape. And then also there is a requirement that the UAB follow a meets and bounds border that someone in the field can actually tell where the border is based on physical features visible at ground level. And so we extended the shape farther outwards in some locations in order to meet such features. Because, for example, when we incorporated the city limits, not all of those would necessarily follow a recognizable physical feature. We mostly followed roads, waterways, and railroad tracks for this purpose, but not exclusively. And we make note that wherever a roadway defines the border of the UAB, it is counted as inside the UAB as opposed to outside. And we confirmed that the UAB is still entirely within the Metropolitan Planning Area. And following the TAC meeting on September 25th, the City of Valley Center staff made a request that the UAB be extended in one location to incorporate some land that they expected to annex in the near future. And so if any of you have something like that you would like to see changed in the UAB, this would be your chance to get that in before we bring it back for formal action at the next meeting. And here is the map of the new UAB that we are proposing that you to consider, and we are asking for you to make any comments on or request any changes to. The light blue shape is the 2020 census urban area that absolutely has to be within the urban area boundary. The dark blue color is the old UAB, and the red hatching is the proposed new UAB, which, as you can see, goes a little bit beyond that. Not too terribly much. And then the black shapes are city limits. So your thoughts on this?
Southeast, between Derby, Rose Hill, Orlando, that area in there. Greatly, addition after addition after addition. Homes are going in from the roads.
Okay, so to be clear, which part are you asking to be in?
Further down.
Okay. Okay, so basically.
Addition out here, proposed addition, seems to be like that. Not rural.
Okay, so your proposal. So your proposal is to incorporate the city of Rose Hill plus all the land in between there and the existing boundary. Okay. Oh, we will consult with KDOT staff as we have all along and find out whether or not that is something that will work for this, and if it does, we will see about trying that.
Nick, if you're inside the UAB, does that in any way affect taxing authority, or does it cause the taxes to go up in any way that you can imagine, or with what we pay to WAMPO to be a part of it, will that increase that amount?
I am not aware of any effects on taxes or fees paid to WAMPO in that regard. Allison, do you know anything about any effects on taxes from the UAB?
No, it does not affect taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was really, thank you for that. I in my imaginations, I'm just wondering if there's any negative effects to covering that additional rather large swath of area. And it sounds like maybe no, at least for the individual entities. And for WAMPO itself, there's no negatives at all that could be associated with that.
Not that I can think of.
Okay, wonderful. I'll hold you to it, Nick. Okay.
I do have one comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Russ.
So I know after this was brought up to TAC, I know it's kind of hard to see on the PDF form, but I do appreciate you working on that link. So you can actually dive deep into the actual names of the streets.
Thank you. Marcella did that.
Okay. Oh, appreciate for that happened. I would like to also, now I can see it, so I could actually request an area just south of Hayesville to be included in that. That we do plan on being developed sometime, which is between Meridian and Seneca and 79th and 87th. It's a square mile right there.
Is he between which ones you do say?
Just south of Hayesville, between Meridian and Seneca. And then 79th Street down to 87th. So it's 1 square mile right there.
Okay. 79th and 87th. Okay. And if possible, it would help us greatly if you could put these requests into an email and send it to us so that we have a document for it.
We sure will.
And on that note, we are right now in the process of preparing the agenda packet for the TAC meeting, in which these will next be considered. So the sooner you could get these into us, the better.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I think we'll move on from there to the Title 6 annual report. I think Peter's going to cover that for us.
So our Title VI annual report. So WAMPO's 2023 Title VI report was submitted to KDOT for approval on September 1st, 2023, and demonstrates WAMPO's efforts to create and maintain a transparent and inclusive planning process by intentionally integrating Title VI environmental justice and limited English proficiency principles into the WAMPO transportation planning process, and intentionally reaching out to traditionally underserved populations in the WAMPO region. To date, no Title VI complaints have ever been received by WAMPO. Yes, any questions or?
All right. Sounds good. We appreciate it. Do we want to move on to D, employment sectors?
So with our consultation with the Centers for Economic Development and Business Research that we're doing for the MTP to create a appendix that just kind of goes over the whole economic, all the demographic and socioeconomic status of the region. In this process, they have done kind of an in-depth report on all sorts of industries in the WAMPO region. I have them listed up here. So you have advanced manufacturing, agriculture, aerospace, healthcare, IT systems support, transportation, and it's covered up, transportation, logistics, and energy. We have these kind of extensive reports on each one of these, and they're on our website now to go see. Over the next several meetings, we wanted to try to get one industry and kind of tell you about what they found and highlight just the kind of fascinating information they kind of gathered for us here. And so you can kind of see some of these are our biggest players in the region. The numbers next to those under each category, that's how many employees are at, well, that manufacturers or IT systems and support location is the data that you're kind of seeing on there, but it'll make more sense as we go through here. So we're going to talk about aerospace for this particular presentation. So as always, and it's almost a little tired saying this, Wichita is WAMPO Central Hub is often referred to as the air capital. Title was earned from its significant contributions to global aviation, hosting major aircraft manufacturers, and its pivotal role in wartime aircraft manufacturing. And the following, we're going to look at the commercial aerospace industry within WAMPO and the Wichita area, with information compiled in partnership with the Center for Economic Development and Business Research, CEDBR. And we're going to look at 3 questions. Who are the key players today? Where is the industry as a whole right now? What key factors will affect the future of the industry? So you have 3 major players. We got a list of all the employment locations, and we kind of compiled some of that. And you have your 3 big players: Spirit Aerosystems, Cessna Aircraft Company, owned by Textron, and Bombardier. And the list of employers, it continues down, but the next one down from Bombardier is Center Industries, and has about 275 employees at that location in the city. And yeah, you can see there's that order of magnitude drop there, but I just want to kind of put forward, Wichita has an enormous amount of small parts manufacturers that manufacture for the aircraft industry. And we kind of put those locations on a map here that we'll show you here in a bit. But I did want to put in one quick slide when talking about the aerospace industry in here. And it's not kind of captured by the study. It's Wichita State University, because it's a major center for aviation research and education in the United States. It offers doctoral programs in aerospace engineering with specific opportunities for practical research. It's very critical if you're pursuing a doctorate to have access to that. And Wichita is special in that regard. And then also the National Institute for Aviation Research. So NIAR serves as a major economic driver for WAMPO by attracting research grants, fostering public-private partnerships, and creating high-quality jobs in the aerospace sector. And in particular, NIAR's partnership with WSU provides education and training for highly skilled positions in the aerospace industry with a focus on practical application. They train a lot of technicians and other specialty skills that are very unique to the aircraft industry or aerospace industry. And it is something that's a little bit special about Wichita to have that here. And on this map in the light blue is our biggest locations for aerospace employees. Kind of see on the south part of town, Bombardier, Cessna, Spirit Aerosystems. And then everything in the yellow were those smaller ones, those 275 employee and less locations. They're kind of more centered around Wichita. And you'll kind of see here, I zoomed in and you can just see there is just a lot of small parts manufacturers spread out through through Wichita. The blue circles are relative to the employee size of our bigger manufacturers: Cessna, Spirit, Bombardier. You kind of see Spirit Aerosystems has the biggest blue one there at their 11,500 employees. And then I wanted to look at, I have information from 2015 to 2021, and you can see for the WAMPO region, you can see about how many aerospace employees we've had by year. And of course, you can see the drop between 2019 and 2020 after experiencing the double whammy of the pandemic, and then also a decrease in demand from the 737 MAX crisis. But still, even in 2021, with that 25,616, Sedber did a comparison between Wichita and other similar cities, and just by number, we're still quite large. We're the largest employer of aerospace workers compared to a lot of these other cities that they kind of considered our peers. And to look a little bit closer on, just how other cities have fared recently, I got Kansas City, Oklahoma, and Tulsa on this, and you can kind of see that drop. Kansas City fared a bit better than us on 2020 and 2021. But yeah, there we go. And move here. And I went ahead and put on the median wages by year. It has been going up. I did look up kind of the average inflation rate. It's more or less keeping pace, or more specifically, it was above pace until 2020, and then 2021, it kind of fell behind because of the higher inflation from that year. And then finally, kind of key factors up for the future. So Sedberg did a threat analysis on aerospace in Wichita. So the threat of new entrants in this business is quite low. Just high capital requirements. The aerospace industry is capital intensive, requires large investments, research and development, manufacturing, and marketing. And then, yeah, you can building a facility to manufacture aircraft parts on the scale of like Spirit or Bombardier is quite difficult. And then also we have other infrastructure in our city, specifically runways over roads. It's not that common of a piece of civil infrastructure to have that, and quite expensive to put into place. And you need that in order to get some of the rather larger components for aircraft in and out of a manufacturing hub that are rather difficult to transport on roads. And then, of course, a lot of proprietary technology is also associated, which makes it a more higher barrier to get into the aerospace industry. Throw substitutions, they do this section on every single sector. Quite low. There's really no other mode of transportation that does what aircraft does. So obviously there. And then bargaining power of buyers and bargaining power of suppliers. And again, Sedber did the research on this for each industry. But in general, there's a limited number of major buyers. So you have your airlines and defense contractors that typically your largest people here like Spirit will be selling to. And then the bargaining power of suppliers, they listed also as moderate because they have a limited number of major suppliers. Spirit Aerosystems is a major supplier of aircraft parts to Boeing and consequently retains some negotiating power. In general, I always thought of Wichita as being the place that builds the planes. That's what I grew up always learning, but looking at things as a whole, we build a lot of parts and things for the airlines, defense industries, things like that. And then rivalry amongst existing firms, high, and that's just because the market is quite consolidated. It has a limited number of major players, leading companies such as like Boeing and Airbus constantly competing for market share. Yes, does anyone have any questions for me? There's quite a bit of information in these reports.
And these reports are online as well, Nick.
Yes.
Thanks.
So if you go into, it's under our EDTC committee, it'll give you links to all of the 7 different sector reports.
Also, Peter was saying Sedber. Can you expand what Sedber?
Sorry. It's a Center for Economic Development and Business Research.
And an exceptional part of WSU for sure. Peter, that's everything?
That is everything.
Any questions? specifics on any data that you want to pepper, Peter? No? Okay, we'll move on. All right, section or item E, new flight from Wichita to DC. Jesse Romo, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Appreciate being here. I think I submitted some slides.
They should be.
Yeah, it should be in there, so you
Oh, okay, I just
do that, yeah.
sorry. First time here. Happy to be here. Okay, so I got asked to talk about DCA. We're going to go to DCA January 8th. But that made for a very short presentation. So we kind of expanded it out, just talk a little bit about air service, because what happens next, what's it more reflective of, and what's going on, right? So next month we have some fancy animation there, so I didn't catch the last one. Next month, we have some great kickoffs to air service. Phoenix is going nonstop starting November 5th with American Airlines. American is also providing nonstop service to Miami seasonal. So it'll be Saturday service, and it's going to run from November 11th through, it was around spring break time, March. I can't remember the last date. American's also giving us DCA on January 8th. And then we have some non-stop flights to Vegas coming from Southwest. I will point out that Phoenix and Vegas were both nonstop service daily prior to COVID. So we lost those things during COVID, and now it's back. So it's really good connections for us. Speaking of connections, connectivity. If you take a look at this map, you know, we've got some pretty good connections coming out, right? We're right there in the center of the country, and we're reaching out a little bit further and further each time, but we still have some major gaps. You can see in the Northeast, along the entire East Coast, really, and West Coast, we've got some opportunities that we're going to be going after. And so, you know, 11 nonstop service now, 5 provided seasonally, which includes Allegiant going to LA or LAX. And then we've got some gold markets that we have up there. So Salt Lake, San Francisco, LA, New York, Charlotte. I'm going to show you a couple of those hubs too. But first, when we go to DCA starting January 8th, it's important to note just how many connections actually go out of DCA. See, a lot of times I get asked, when are we going to get more direct service? Well, direct service is really related to where that individual wants to go, right? And so we're a smaller community when you look at the size of the total airline network. And so we will always go into a hub. We are a spoke. And so, thanks. Well, now I can't see myself. Okay, so DCA, though, also provides a lot of connectivity on the East Coast. And for people to come back into Wichita as well. It's a little bit of a backtrack, but at least it provides much more connectivity. Miami, by the way, when we're going down to Miami, that is a hub for American Airlines that they are expanding and growing. A lot of connections into the Caribbean and some into Latin America out of Miami. But to the Northeast, that's an area, and I'm going to get technical here with our terms, right? PDUs. Northeast is an area we want to go after, but we need the PDUs. So what are PDUs? Passengers departing each way. That's not a round trip because it's not one guy coming from Wichita to DC and back. That's me going to DC. Oh, and by the way, that aircraft's got to come this way. So someone from DC is also flying into Wichita. Their passengers departing each way. Now, one of the trends that we're seeing in the airline industry too is an upgauge of aircraft. So you don't necessarily always get more flights. You could get converted from a smaller aircraft to a larger one. So on average, we're going to have to seat at least a 76-seat aircraft. And when you look at our PDUs for the Northeast area, we're looking good at 127. If you only look at that from New York, well, that's 46. So if you don't have enough to sustain, even in a single market, that PDU to keep up with the seats of an aircraft, it means you got to be able to pull from other areas. So remember connectivity, right? And so if you look at the greater Northeast area, they will draw in to that New York area. Let me explain with some numbers. This is May 2024 scheduled flights. I'm gonna try to stick within 10 minutes too. I know I got a lot of data to go through. And it's the end of the day, right? So I'm gonna hold you up from happy hour. But if you look at Newark, we have that highlighted because United has a lot of flights out of Newark, 13,000 flights, 148 different destinations. Charlotte, 18,000 flights for American Airlines out of there with 160 connections. It is just outrageous what Charlotte has become. But look at Newark. I mean, not only does it have a lot of connectivity throughout the East Coast, but you can travel across the pond too to get to international destinations. Charlotte is just growing leaps and bounds. It is the world's third largest hub. I didn't even realize that it had grown that far. We learned that earlier this year. But the connections are incredible out of Charlotte, all across the United States, Caribbean. And when we look at the West Coast, adding Phoenix does give us a lot of good connectivity along the entire Pacific coastline there. But when we look at our PDUs, LA alone has 95, not just the whole area, 95 PDUs. The San Francisco area has 36, Salt Lake City has 21. So those markets are going to have to rely upon the other outlying markets. LA can sustain itself right now. And our flights are very well, load factors are over 90%. It's always about 95% full on Allegiant flights to LA. And so we are going to try and go after that market. However, we have to figure out what airline do we pursue and which exact location. We have some opportunities. When you look at LAX, 3,600, 4,100, 3,400, they're all pretty within range, right? If you go back and remember the chart I showed you for Newark, there was a really clear number one versus a number two. Here you don't, you got different opportunities with the different airlines. But the way that breaks out, it means LAX is very impacted. It's hard to get into that airline or to that airport. But there are other airports in the area. Orange County John Wayne Airport is probably the next likely airport for us to pursue, just from a numbers perspective. And hub connections out of San Francisco are phenomenal. Same with Salt Lake City. And that's typically going to be provided by Delta. We'll give you a lot of connectivity, especially to the northwest. And just kind of give you a sense of where we are now with all of our employments. This is from August. We're 96% of 2019 levels. So we're very well recovered from COVID. Our service looks a little different. Like I said, we don't always have as many seats, as many flights, but we'll add seats with larger aircraft. Fares too have been going up. I know inflation's hitting everybody, but on the whole, we're actually a little bit lower than where we were in 19. And the airlines have some pretty big cost drivers between labor and fuel that go into their pricing strategies. But so far, we've actually, we're voting quite well against all of our regional competitors. So how do we get from here to there? We need assistance. This city, the county, and a number of businesses stepped up to participate and pledge support for a federal grant program that we applied for with USDOT, SCASD, Small Community Air Service Development. We just got notified we didn't get that grant. But we didn't get the grant because we wanted to go to DCA in America and said, oh, you don't need a grant. We're going to go to DCA. And so it's kind of good news. But it means the next opportunity is just around the corner for us. And we have to be ready for it. So whether it's a federal grant program that's going to help us out with the minimum revenue guarantee or a state program, and this is what this slide is about. We have a state concept. We've been floating around with different businesses and stakeholders. We've talked to different airports across the state of Kansas. We've talked to key legislators. So we're hoping to kind of push and pursue this next session. This would not be like affordable airfares. I'll make that very clear. This is not affordable airfares again. This is a completely different program, modeled more after the federal program that helps small communities develop their air service. We hope to have this for the state of Kansas, similar to what other states are doing to help their airports out. I went through that pretty quick. I'm happy to stand for any questions if you have any or allow.
Or comments.
Quick comment, right? Our chair, our WAMPO chair, Becky Tuttle, has advised that let this word be spread to all jurisdictions. So we promote this in our social media and all. So WAMPO staff is promoting this in our social media so that there is, encourage more travel and all. That's all.
We appreciate that because best way to keep and grow service is to use the service we have.
That's a nice tagline. Good job. Well, thank you for that. It's exceptional information. Great to see the connection to DC. That's well needed for a long time. Thank you for making that happen.
Thank you all.
Okay. After all the presentations, we're going to move on to the committee and partnership updates. The executive committee will meet again on November the 2nd, which is a Thursday at 11 a.m. here. And moving on to B, KDOT. Is Mike online, or who would represent KDOT if not?
Allison, are you there for KDOT updates?
I am. I don't have really anything. Mike didn't prep me with anything. So just again, a reminder about next Wednesday's local consult. We really would love to see you there. And if I hear anything else, I will email staff.
Perfect. Thank you, Allison. All right, Tom.
We continue to work on the North Junction project, mostly at K96 and I-135 junction. That will continue for 2 more years. We have, hey, it takes a while. Every bridge that goes up takes a full year. And as you can see, they're big bridges. And so we will have some traffic interruptions because when they swing those beams, we don't want cars traveling underneath. That'll mostly be on weekends. We have 2 planning projects that are huge. The East Kellogg project, of course, from K96 to Andover. That planning is ongoing right now, and we look for construction to begin soon.
Can you give me a range? Like a 3-month buffered range?
I cannot.
Okay.
That's
a
secret
3-year
information at
buffered
this
range.
time.
Okay,
It's either a year away or 2 years away. I don't know which.
That's what I'll tell him tonight. Tom
So,
said. All right.
The other one is K96 improvements, which is K96 on the east side from I-135 down to the East Kellogg project. So it would stretch all the way down to 127th Street, where that the East Kellogg project starts on K96 as we rebuild that entire K96 interchange with the Kellogg project. Other than that, it is local consult, which has been mentioned multiple times, but that is Wednesday, October 18th, 9 to noon. See you there.
Tom, so the 96 project to Kellogg as well as the East Kellogg project, are they being worked in tandem then, or is one going to happen before the other?
I believe East Kellogg will start earlier, and I don't know that they'll overlap. KDOT is a little hesitant to do that to drivers, although we did it at the North Junction.
Fair.
So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out, but it won't start at the same time.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. The last one is Federal Highway Administration. Is Rick or Matt online? Doesn't look like it. Okay, well, we'll move beyond that. Other business? Go ahead, Chad.
Mr. Chair, quickly, Kelly Rundle is here, and if Kelly has some comments on preparation for the next vice chair elections, any comments, Kelly, for TPB advice or preparation, that would be helpful.
Sure, just very briefly, in light of Troy's upcoming resignation, normally your elections are held in February. But if there's a vacancy that has to be filled by an election, so your next November election, you'll elect a new vice chair of TPB who will serve in that position until the February election. So it's only a few months, but that will happen in the November meeting. Any questions? It seems easy.
Thank you,
Okay.
Kelly. A quick comment. Troy had been a technical advisory committee chair as well as executive committee member. It's pretty closely worked with staff in 2021, 2022, and even 2020 as well. And he helped staff to make, the WAMPO financially stable. Pretty many hours of sitting with the staff and working with us. It's so, his contributions is like, my knowledge is so limited to praise you guys. Your magnanimity and leadership is just beyond my words, and all I have is thank you to Troy. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Chad. I'm not going to cry, I promise. Okay, if there's no other business, we'll move on to adjournment, and I will adjourn this meeting. Have a great weekend, everybody, or a great week.